All right, so I think we've got maybe two questions that we're asking ourselves here. We're not just looking for results, right? We're going to get results on this and we'll see where we go. But we're also asking ourselves, when do things need to be demoed? And the truth of the matter is, when we're dealing with semi-porous surfaces like this, like drywall and things, traditionally they would say, well, if there's mold growth, demo it. Okay, now I've been in enough situations to know there's a difference between mold that's growing on the surface, right? Surface mold versus embedded mold. When we've got embedded mold, it's into the structure of the drywall and things like that, yeah, we got to demo that out. If it's on the surface, like a lot of times we see in bathroom ceilings and those sorts of things, I would say at least 90% of the time, we're able to react, extract that, restore it to prior condition. We may go out over with a moisture control like a MaxGuard or something like that just to make sure it doesn't reform on the surface, but primarily react, extract for, we have this video out called Ugly Bathroom Mold, is the way to go to prevent the cost of demolition. So we're going to start here like we would any other time. I've already taken a picture of this. Now, obviously, when we get into a situation like this, if this were on wood or anything else, we would be saying, okay, that's a pretty clear MSI 5 situation, right? It's we've got embedded mold in the surface as far as we can tell, which is why we're going to test, and we have severe pigmentation staining. So let's just start with it here. And you'll notice that one of the things I do, and is a good habit when we get into the actual sprayers with tips themselves that give us control, is we always try to do about a 50% overlap, okay? So we get a good spray pattern, all right? Now, in this situation, we're going to do the same thing, Si, that you did last time, and that is we're going to apply OxyPrep to the surface, allow it to dwell for a minute or two. We're going to apply it one more time, and then we're going to react, and we're going to see where we can go from here. Again, we're dealing with drywall, right? Painted drywall here. We're not expecting miracles. We're gradually seeing, I don't know if you are, but gradually seeing this pigmentation dissipate. All right, I'm going to go.
This is prep again?
It is prep again, yep. Okay. All right.
We need a song. So how long do you let the second prep typically set?
Yeah, typically somewhere around 30 seconds.
Okay, that's much shorter.
It's much shorter.
A typical dwell time is 2 minutes, 30 seconds.
And then par.
And then par, dwell time on par is how long?
Dwell time on par, I typically try to get at least a couple minutes out of it. We have customers who will say, man, I let it go as long as possible, as long as it's still wet on the surface before coming back and extracting it. Okay, so we've got to a certain, let's call it result here. Okay, now let's go ahead and let that dwell for a good 2 minutes at least. And what, if you're up close, what we're going to begin to see is, I keep using that term soil load, but see how all of that soiling right there is now running down the wall, right? Coming to the surface. That's what we're looking for, is it to draw out that soil load and for it to do the work and you not to do the scrubbing, right? That's why kind of treating this as a assembly line, if you will, and applying prep and then applying par and then having a way to circle back to that is such an effective method, because you don't have to waste time dwelling on this when the product can be doing the dwelling for you. It's interesting right there where we see this distinct line of again, the soil load here. So we're going to go back to that because I think through the camera and everything else, we're going to see the differences. Now, remember, if I were severity indexing this right now, I would have taken a before picture and after picture with OxyPrep. Once I got to the level of stain removal that I wanted to initially get it to, a picture of what's going on right now, which is the reaction, and then my first after picture, mainly for my guidance at this point in time, if that makes some sense.
Why would you want to save this drywall as opposed to
You
just
wouldn't.
cutting it out?
You wouldn't. You wouldn't.
Okay.
Although, yeah. This is not a practical exercise here.
So this is if the homeowner's insisting on, hey, I love that mural on that wall, I want to keep that wall, or something, you know what I mean?
For our purposes here, it's just about how severity indexing can help us. Because when we get the end of this, we're going to go, oh yeah, clearly that needs to be demoed, right? We get that question over and over again, which is why I want to dwell on it here, of when do I need to remove it? When it's embedded into the drywall, and this will clearly demonstrate that this is embedded into the drywall, okay? So now we're going to remove, okay? And I want you to see a couple things here. Okay, I'm not going to go crazy, but here is a tremendous amount of soil load, okay? Now, tell me that your competition is taking the time during the inspection process to capture that level of information. Now, for my own purposes, I would take a second shot here, but here's what I'm going to do. We're going to come back to this surface, and we're going to reapply prep. Okay. Let's just give ourselves another 60 seconds here, if we can. Okay, so I've got my first shot of soil load, which is going to be educational for the customer as well. We've got a secondary reaction going on here. And this is the kind of thing that can give us efficiency, because if we were doing a surface that was like an MSI 5, like structurally or something like that, and we said, oh, okay, in that second reaction, all that we needed was 60 seconds. Fantastic information to be able to pass on to the team from an efficiency standpoint.
And for the customer, if we can save the drywall, clearly the expense is less on the front side, but on the back side, drywall painting, like for the customer, it's much cheaper if we could save and not have to demo.
We'd probably just have to come back and go over it with paint, right?
Right.
Does the drywall accept the paint after this chemical has been
Oh, sure.
on there?
Yeah.
Okay.
In those, like we have a commercial out right now that is literally nicknamed Ugly Bathroom Mold, right? Where we go in and we pan across this ceiling. Let me just do this and we'll continue talking.
Like you're taking the surface off the...
We definitely did. On that side of things, we took some paint off, and look what we found underneath. Embedded mold, right into the drywall. Okay, so it had gone through the paint film directly into the drywall itself. Okay, and now we know this just has to be demoed, right? Does that make some sense? Right? Once it goes through that paint film into the drywall, demo time. Okay? But again, all of that can be picked up right in that inspection by severity indexing first, so that there's no second guessing it. You got all the information you need right from the inspection. Okay? And all the pictures that you need.
So if you're spraying this
Now,
product on cinder blocks, would you have to use like a stiff brush in order to...
No, you let it do the work.
The chemicals do the work?
Yeah. You let the product do the work, right? You don't make your job harder than it needs to be. Yep. Because, when I've been challenged with this before from ICRC instructors, even though I'm a continuing education instructor and things like that with ICRC, and the question is, well, you're not getting physical action. The physical action is coming through the neutralization reaction, which is exothermic in nature, which means it's producing heat and physical action at the same time, right? Let the chemistry do the physical action or the work. You do the application and extraction, right? How much simpler can it be, right? And how much faster can it be that way? Now, obviously, you saw a tremendous amount of not only stain removal, but soil load removal all together there. So let's move to another space now that's structural, because all of this, is clearly going to be demoed out. And I think we had a good place up in this far bedroom here on the subfloor. So let's do that one next.